Hello everyone, my name is Jen, and today we are going to be discussing Outlander, Season 8, Episode 7, Evidence of Things Not Seen. Buckle up. Alright everyone, hello and welcome. And as you'll notice, I'm releasing this video early because everybody wants to talk about this episode. I do too. I absolutely do too. And so I'm putting this video up early instead of waiting until Tuesday for a couple of reasons. One, I definitely understand that feeling when you want to talk about something so badly, right? That's the whole reason I have a booktube channel. That's the whole reason I do these recaps to begin with. And I normally like releasing them on Tuesdays just because A, that's when I normally used to release a video, is Tuesdays, so this one just fits nicely there, but also because I like to give us some time to digest it, think about it, and then when my reviews go up on Tuesday and the next episode's coming on like Thursday, it makes it feel like a lot less time in between, right? But sometimes things go so wackadoodle, so off the charts, that people need to talk about it right now. And because I don't particularly enjoy being on the Facebook groups that talk about it, and I also already have noticed some people commenting on the episode 6 video wanting to talk about this one so badly, which I'm not throwing any shade at anyone. I completely understand wanting to talk about it, but I don't want to put any spoilers on previous episodes because there'll be people in the future who, and I know you guys don't see this, but I do. I have people years later that come back through watching my recaps as they're catching up, or because they've never seen it, or it's not available in their country yet. And I just don't want to spoil things ahead of time for them before. So I'm going to get this filmed and get it edited as quickly as possible and put it up. So I'll actually have 2 videos up on this Saturday. But there's just so much that happened here. So as I normally do though, I'm going to try to keep myself composed and we're going to go through the recap part. And then we'll get into the comparisons and what a lot of people's problems are. Now, just a reminder, though, to head off any of this, I'm going to try very hard not to be nasty about anything, and I ask you guys to refrain from that as well. We can go at it hardcore about the content and about the story, but let's not throw any, hate or vitriol at any persons. We can just be upset that it's being interpreted in this way. Also to remind people, I am a book lover first, right? I've shared this every time I get into one of these where it gets sticky and people want to start saying, well, this is what the show decided to do. Yes, it is. We're going to discuss that. That's fine. But though I came to the show before I read the books, I, for many, many years, have loved the books more than the show. And the point of my channel specifically is talking about the comparisons, right? Sometimes that's easier than others when, in my opinion, the past season and a half have been very dedicated to following the book story. And that's when I can do more of my comparison part of this, and rating it on how closely it follows it. And there have been seasons where things are so off the rails that I just am recapping what's happening and bitching, right? And there have been those times as well. But my channel and my space will always be available for those who are book lovers and show lovers. But if you're a show lover only, please give the space to people who are upset that things that they deeply love are changed, right? That is why I'm doing the recaps the way I am. Because there's plenty of other recaps that say, well, we're not comparing it to the book, or we're holding the show on its own. That's not me. And that's not what happens in my space. We get to bitch about those things. We get to praise those things. We get to compare and contrast, right? And this is going to be an episode that has deeply hurt some of us, has confirmed our fears about some certain things, and also that feels like a betrayal when we are this close to the end of a beloved show for a lot of us. Because even if we are book lovers first, a lot of people, like myself, do deeply appreciate the work that is done by the show and that it has interested so many people in the books. Again, it's how I found the books. And so I have a great respect for it. But when they do things like this that feel like a slap in the face to storylines that are deeply personal to some of us and are deeply embedded in the lore of Outlander. And even the author herself is like, they've changed things beyond repair in some aspects. We need a place to vent about it and know that it doesn't take anything away from you if you enjoy where the story is going. I'm just warning you that I am a book reader first and foremost, and the show to me complements what I love about the book. And when they do shit like this, I get to bitch about it, and you get to bitch about it along with me. Just remember where we're pointing the bitching at. Like, we're not attacking actors or even the creators. Like, if they're making the decisions they made, that's fine. We can discuss why we think they did those. But let's keep our disappointment in the fact that, like, we're just disappointed that it's different. Okay? With that being said, let's get into my recap, which I'm going to try to just push through as best I can. And then we'll get into the comparisons where I'm going to let all hell break loose. All right? So at this point, if you would like this video, if you subscribe to my channel, we still have some reviews to go. Here we go, is all I'll say. All right, so this begins with a cold open of, I should even go back further than that. I don't normally watch the recap. I always skip it to get right into the episode because I find that the recaps often spoil what's going to happen in the episode. If you are they'll remind you of certain things, right? So that it primes you for what you're going to see. And as I was skipping the recap, I saw the clip of Jane, as she was waiting to be killed. And I was like, oh no, they're going to do it. Like, I knew it. I knew it was coming. But anyway, so we start with the cold open, and it is with Frank's voiceover as Jamie is climbing the ridge of King's Mountain, and some stuff is being discussed about the battle. And we hear Frank say that, the rebels will win, the loyalists will get defeated. There will only actually be 28 of the rebels who would die, but among them was, and then we have Jamie say, me. So the militia will win, but Jamie will fall on King's Mountain, is what we're told. And then we have the intro. And the end of this intro, again, I always skip the intro except for the first and last episodes of the season, because I've heard the Skyboat song a bazillion times at this point, so I usually only listen to it at the beginning and the ends of a season. And the very end of it was, when they show the title of the episode, they have someone making lace. So that was interesting. Then when we come back from the intro, we have James and Claire by the fire together talking, and Jamie is explaining, like, yes, everything is just as his book described about the location and about, what would be the best place to set up. And, Claire also is commenting on, I thought it was something to maybe, like, punish me. And Jamie acknowledges that it was truthful, and possibly this could be a warning instead of a threat or something to taunt him with. Maybe it's a warning for him. Okay, then we go to Savannah at the print shop. I just keep saying those together, but we go to the print shop and we have Fergus and his two sons. So he's with Germain and Henry Christian, and they are printing the paper. Very cute moment. Again, if you are a book reader, you are probably feeling a pit in your stomach, as I was, because I said this last week when we saw Henry Christian just pop back up, as he hasn't been referenced to since he was born. You are like, okay, well, you usually don't just pop this character in here just because. So I was starting to feel a little sick there. But it's a very sweet moment, and I love getting to see Fergus interact with his kids, and he reminds them that, like, our pens are our swords, and we must never put them down. Also, we have Henry Christian say, I don't ever want to disappoint you, Papa. So just a very cute moment, and it had me wanting to tear up already. Sorry, I've already filmed for an hour and a half today. So I might heavily need to rely on my drink to get through this today. All right. Then we switch to the Gray home in Savannah, and we have William arriving back. Amaranthus seems so excited to see him, and right away, William drops that, I know he's alive. I know what you had to do with it. How could you lie about this? And, you know, Amaranthus, she has all her reasons for it of like, he wouldn't be dissuaded and, you know, all of these things. And she's like, the family would be so upset about it. And then she said, I wanted a coward, William. And he says, and you thought that would be me? And she says, no, I thought maybe, but it didn't end up being so. But then Lord John walks in as they're talking. And William is like, I have to tell my dad that he's alive. And so Lord John Grey comes in and says that Hal is actually on the way. And they'll have to tell him the terrible news. And William says, he's alive. I found him. And he says all of the stuff. And so William has told Amaranthus, you know, maybe they don't have to know that you know. But then she says, no, uncle, I have to tell you. And he's like, let me get the whiskey. So, yes, but we've told Lord John that Ben is alive and that he is on the continental side. And John immediately is like, oh, okay, well, that's, he sees what the pickle is, of course. All right, then we switch back to the print shop area, and we have Marcelly and Bree are at the market. They're buying food for the night. They're talking about what their plans are, and the plans are for Bree and Roger to meet with the rebel guy and get some guns from them before they head back to the ridge to, you know, arm the militia and everything. And Marcelly and Fergus end up getting Marcelly ends up getting a tomato thrown at her back, and they walk out of there aghast. All right, then we go back to the ridge, and we have Claire and Frances are at the cairn that Jamie had brought her to a while back, and she is talking to Jane about her day, and she has this little pouch of like trinkets, and within the trinkets there was supposedly a piece of lace that had been from her grandmother, and she starts crying because she can't find it, and Claire's like, oh no, what's wrong? And she explains that her grandmother was a lace maker in Paris, and she doesn't remember the name of her grandmother because they just called her grandmère, which makes sense because she would have been very little when they were still in Paris, but she just knew that she'd had a piece of her grandmother's lace. And so Claire's like, a lace maker in Paris. How interesting. So then we switch back to Lord John's house again, and Amaranthus is revealing the truth. She's sharing that she knew, and that she figured it would be better that he was dead. And Lord John Grey is like, or more lucrative maybe, because he's saying like being the widow of him would mean more money for her, which, let's be fair, that's a suspicion that we've all had at some point. And Lord John Grey calls her out on it and says, have you ever been hungry a day in your life? Which again, also fair on her side as well. And she throws her drink at the ground or whatever and walks out. And Lord John Grey, you know, is reminding him not to have a tryst with her. And William kind of confirms, he's like, you know, I don't want anything to do with liars. So it kind of seems to him like he's had enough of her, but who's to say? All right. Then we go back to the print shop again, and Fergus comes across Marcelly, who's cleaning out her dress. And Fergus finds a note on the front door, and they read it out loud and laugh about it, and they talk about ranking it among all the threats that they've received. So just being a bit nonchalant, but this note does mention a fire, so that's important to know. But then little Henry Christian comes out, and he has ink all over him, and he didn't want to wear his ink sleeves because he would get them dirty, even though that's the point of them. But Fergus tells him, he's like, but you have to keep your hands clean, you know, which I mean, that obviously means you want to keep the paper clean. So if you get full of ink, you could get it on the paper and smudge everything. But they joke about future children they might have. And then they actually have a love scene where they go up to their room and lock the door and have a love scene, which I will say that is one of only like 2 love scenes we've ever seen with Fergus and Marcelly, which, in my opinion too, this is a side note, I was like, I wonder if Marcelly is going to be pregnant from this, because as we've apparently learned, Outlander only shows people fucking if there's going to be babies, except for Claire and Jamie, because we'll have more of that from Bree soon as well. But anyway, it's a very sweet scene between them, and I'm just reminded again how much we've been robbed of these characters having scenes together, because in all the seasons, scenes between those 2 characters, Caesar and Lauren, they're fantastic. I love those actors with so much of my heart. I adore them. They're wonderful. All right, then we go back to the Ridge, and we have Claire telling Jamie what she learned from Fanny today, that there was that the grandmother was a lace maker. And Jamie points out that there was a lace maker who worked across from Master Raymond's shop in Paris. And he knows this because he'd bought something for Claire from there before. They're again doing this like, could it be? It was such an awful time. They reminisce on how she hated him at that point and wanted him to be in as much pain as her after Faith died. And Claire points out that Mother Hildegard chose Faith's name, and maybe she wanted me to, not forget my Faith. And they end this back and forth with Claire saying she's afraid to lose him again, and he says, hold on to me. Then we go back to Savannah again, and Lord John Grey is having a day. Okay, the man is having a day. He's sitting on kind of his like front porch having a drink, and Percy Wainwright shows up. So isn't that great? And Percy has some updates for him. So if you'll recall a few episodes ago when there was the dinner where, Percy was slipping his hand up John's thigh, he had asked him to keep an eye on what Richardson was up to, this character named Richardson. And Percy has arrived to tell him that Richardson is on his way there. And Percy then wants to reminisce about some old memories between them, about when their parents got married. And he says, there was a time when you loved me, John, if only you would admit it. And then they kiss. And of course they kiss just as William arrives, which they were kissing in literally the front room. So I'll just hold that in. But literally kiss in the front room, and not even behind a closed door. So it's not like William was intruding on anything. Okay, he comes down and he sees his father kissing another man just there. Okay, and so Percy sees himself out after blowing that shit up for everyone, and now William is confronting John about Ardsmuir, which that throws John back a little bit, and says, I wonder if you had slept with Jamie, and that's why you were willing to take on his son, which John is just like, whoa, like, what the hell? Where's that coming from? He says, no, we were friends. And he's, the whole spiel of like, he's one of the best men that I know. That's not what happened. And William is like, well, I don't know what to believe, because there's all of these lies. And I mean, he does call his father, a sodomite and some other bad names, which are very unnecessary. To William's one point, though, I, of course, love Lord John. I love him. And I wish he was free to be himself wherever he could. But William just catching him kissing a man, this is a crime. This is something John could be killed for. William has discovered that the woman he was falling for is still married. His cousin is still alive. He's like, all of this stuff is happening at once. So what I don't love is the show always makes William seem unreasonable. But when you would take just a minute to analyze all the information this man keeps having thrown on him, to me it is reasonable that he would be kind of pissed. Though at the same time, it feels really good when Lord John calls him an ungrateful, brat, and that he's tired of his attitude. I also understand John's point, and he's also a bit scared, a bit frazzled, probably a bit horny, and just had all of that stuff happen at once. So I don't really blame either of them for the reactions in this moment, and I think it's more of a point of putting a little rift more between William and John still for some possible some story that's coming up, to have them end on possibly a bitter note with one another. I don't mean end as in death, but like to end their last, like if their last words currently to each other were to be harsh things, that's really going to eat at both of them, right? But I will tell you, I have a huge side eye for the fact that they had John and Percy kissing, and I'll have more to say about that in the comparison. All right. Now we go back to the Ridge, and we have Jamie and Claire receiving a letter from Ian, because he was able to go to the brothel in Philadelphia, as he was asked to do by Jamie in the show. And there he found an article, of which he has enclosed, and he was able to talk to the reporter about his original notes. And so this is the reporter who had came to interview Jane as she was awaiting her execution for killing the soldier who was like raping her, basically. Yeah. And so she then recalls the story of her mother and how her mother was given to this woman who was a lace maker in Paris by a strange little man. And he said that if he didn't come back for the baby, to look for Lady Brockturrock, who was a, wealthy woman in the city. And after a little while, when the strange man never came back, this woman did end up looking for her and had discovered that she had left the country. And so this woman couldn't understand how this wealthy woman wouldn't have never come back for her baby, and she had already fallen in love with the child and kept her and raised her. And then, skipping ahead many years in the story, Jane recounts how her mother married a man, I can't remember the guy's name, but married Pocock, and so that is where, she became Faith Pocock. And they had discovered that this woman was back. Somehow he knew this woman was back, and that she was in the wilds of the Carolinas. And so they were actually on their way on the ship to find this woman when they died on the boat. And so that's everything she told the reporter, including tell my sister I love her, all those things. Okay. All right. So that's supposed to mean that, yes, Faith did live, and we'll get to more of this soon, but Faith did live and lived her life, had these girls, found love, discovered Claire was Lady Brockturrock was alive, living in the Carolinas, and the whole family was headed over there. That's supposed to be the reason they were on this ship. They were on the way to find Claire and Jamie, just to jab the knife in tighter, right? Right? It feels so good, doesn't it? Okay, now we go to the print shop, and let's just hurt ourselves some more. So we awake to the smell of smoke. The little girls wake up, Ferguson, Marcelly, and they can't find the boys. And they mention that, sometimes they go on the roof of the print shop to look at the stars. And so Fergus, he sends the women all out of the house, and he says, I'll go over and get them. He makes it to the roof, and, somehow the little boys are still sleeping, even when everything is half on fire already. And there is some rope up there that it must be used to get supplies up to the roof or something. And so Fergus ties it around Germain, and he tells Henry Christian to hold on to him, and he'll lower them over the side. And again, if you're a book reader, you are terrified and expecting a certain thing to happen here. Especially with all of the attention that's been paid to Henry Christian recently, because with him having dwarfism, his little arms and legs are not as long or probably as strong as his brothers and sisters are. But Fergus swings them out over, and Henry Christian isn't able to hold on, and he slips off of Germain's back and is falling. However, the show has Roger catch him. So we have this moment of relief, and Marcelly calls up that Roger caught him. He lowers Germain the rest of the way down, and as he's looking to make sure they're okay, Fergus falls through. God damn it. I'm going to keep going. Fergus falls through the roof of the print shop, and he's dead. Now we skip quickly to the Ridge, and we have Jamie waking up from a dead sleep at night, saying something's wrong, something's horribly wrong, showing that he's connected to his family. And he just hears crying, but he doesn't know what happened. All right, then we go to Savannah, and this was a little odd to me that we never end up seeing them, because it seems that Bree and Roger are at Lord John's house, is what it seems to me, but we never see them interact with any of those people, which is a weird choice for me, considering everything that's going on, and also considering that it might be nice for William to get to talk to his sister about all the stuff that he's just discovered, but whatever. But we have Roger and Brianna clearly covered and sitting on a chaise lounge talking, and Bree asks what would Roger do if she died, or if she does die, and he's like, I don't want to think about that, and she's like, no, I want to know if you would stay here or if you would go, and Roger confirms that we would stay here, all of our family's here, the 4 of us are safest here, and Bree says, no, the 5 of us. So Bree tells him that she's pregnant. Then Bree goes to sit with Marcelly on the floor of the bedroom, and the 4 kids are sleeping in bed together, and Marcelly says, oh, we're going to keep going. Marcelly says she doesn't want to ever look away from them, and then she explains about the note that they got and tells Bree about how they would laugh about it and rank them together, and she says, now there's nothing left of my husband but ashes and bones. And Bree reminds him that he's in every one of your children and you'll always have him with you. Then we go back to the Ridge, and we have Jamie and Claire telling Fanny what Jane had said. So I'm not going to recount everything. It's just so much, but she basically tells her all the things. She tells her that Jane loved her. She explains that I'm actually Lady Brock Turok. She says we thought our daughter was dead, or we never would have left. We had no idea. No one told us. And I guess the point of, just to make this kind of try to connect, I guess, is that Claire never got to see Raymond again after he had healed her. And supposedly, as this story says it, or after he had saved Faith, because the next time Claire sees Master Raymond, first she's grieving, and Master Raymond is supposed to be in hiding. And the next time she sees him, they're in the Star Chamber, where there's that situation with Count de Saint-Germain and Master Raymond. And he then, Master Raymond makes it so the Count de Saint-Germain is killed, and then Master Raymond is forced to leave the country immediately. He's literally seen out of the country by the king's guards, I think we're supposed to assume, and we never see him again. But, okay, we can't go into it right now, how many other problems that I have with this, but I'm just going to say it. He never tried to tell Claire that her daughter was alive, even though he told this woman that Claire would be back for the child. He never tried to tell Claire. He never left a note. He never hid anything anywhere. He just, whatever. And guess what? It's because it never happened. They never planned for this to happen. This isn't how it's supposed to go. But anyway, we're moving on. They tell her this, and she's very overwhelmed by all of it, asked to go to her room, and they're like, maybe that was just a lot for us, a lot to process. All right. Then we're back in Savannah, and we have them all waking up. Again, I assume it's at Lord John's house, but he never makes an appearance at all to tell them that he's sorry or whatever. He was literally their, step uncle for a little while, and he, nothing happens there at all. And anyway, Bree is making the bed, and Henry Christian says, we need to go back to the print shop. The pen is our sword, and we must never set it down. And she is just like, okay, that is like, wow, okay. And she's like, why don't you have breakfast with your siblings, and then we'll see. And so I also forgot to mention this. When they were in the market earlier is when Marcelly told Bree about Percy Wainwright's offer. And I was pushing through all of this, so I didn't say it, but she comments on how much money they could inherit and that he's worried about what it means. And Bree is like, you should take Percy's offer. And now Marcelly is like, he wouldn't want me to do that. I can't do that. And she's like, well, I think he'd want you to do what you have to do to take care of your kids. And she's like, that may very well be true, but, we need to, I need to bury my husband, and we'll see about that later. So that's just left to hang. So then we go to the Ridge, and Fanny had went back to the cairn, and she's sitting there, just crying, and Claire's like, we're sorry if we overwhelmed you. And it turns out the reason she's really upset is that she loses everyone, and she's afraid that she's, bringing that curse to them as well, basically. And then as they're walking back, we see the Mackenzies and the young Frasers arrive, and Marcelly is dressed in black. And so this is the confirmation of Jamie's worst, that feeling he had when he woke up. And we have, we have a voiceover from Claire about how awful it is and everything. And as everyone's crying, and Jamie's holding Marcelly, and it's very sad. And then we have a scene of Jamie making Fergus's coffin, and we get a montage flashback of him meeting Fergus and claiming him as his son and calling him the son of my name and of my heart. And he's just having a moment. And then Fanny comes up to him and asks him to walk with her. And he takes her to a cairn that it looks like she started making and said, this is for Fergus. And she calls him Granda for the first time. And then we have a very end scene that flashes to, I almost didn't see this part because the stupid subtitle blocks over it, but it is Paris in 1744. And it flashes back to Master Raymond handing this baby Faith, who does not look like a premature child, not like the child we last saw, who was blue and didn't have fully developed eyelashes or nails or anything. And he gives her to the woman. And then we learn how this song was passed down, because I didn't even mention it because it's so stupid, because literally Fanny's the one who points it out. Well, how did we know the lullaby if she was a baby? Good point. Guess how the lullaby got passed down. Master Raymond had heard Claire singing that song to her dead child. I'm going to keep saying it. Her dead child. And when he brings the child to this woman, who we have no context for, but supposedly Master Raymond, I don't know, maybe it's going to say he knew she'd always wanted a child and couldn't have one. I don't know what the reason's going to be why he's trusting Claire and Jamie Fraser's child to this woman we've never heard of before, who this baby is dead that he supposedly healed. It isn't even a matter of healing. Again, she's stillborn. She isn't fully developed. This baby was not ready to be born when she died. But we get this scene of him handing her over. And the way that this song got passed down through time is because he heard Claire singing, I love to sing beside the seaside. And he teaches it to this woman who only speaks French, teaches him this American song that Claire was singing to her dead child. And that is how that lullaby got passed down from Faith to Jane and Fanny, that Fanny was singing it in that church at the end of season 7. Okay? And that's the end of the episode. All right? Okay. I hope I did a mostly good job recapping that. It is so hard to, like, here's the part we're going to enter the bitchiness galore, okay? We're going to enter the bitchiness galore. That is the comparison. Because I feel so betrayed. And I shouldn't. Because I knew something like this was coming, okay? They gave us the clear signs that they were going to make this choice. And, you know, it didn't matter how people felt that it is insulting and infuriating, and it undoes so much of the beauty of the episode of Faith and of something so many women and men and mothers and fathers go through, losing a stillborn child and the grief that you carry with you forever, and the amount of times throughout the series that Jamie and Claire connect over wondering what she would have been like and if she would have children, and you know, what it would have been like to be there. And to make that not just be a wishful thing that Claire and Jamie would have this moment that only the two of them share of dreaming what Faith would be like, to discover that no, she actually did do all those things. They were just stolen from you. I cannot accurately represent my fury that these choices are made. Okay, I am furious. All right, it was one thing for it to be speculation. Okay, I'm furious about this. I would be just as furious about this if this ends up being what Diana Gabaldon wants it to be as well. I don't believe that it is, based on evidence from the book, that this theory gets killed, basically, and we're going to talk about it in a moment. I'll say it. I'll still be pissed if this is what Diana does in book 10 as well. Because it is the most insulting thing I can think of doing, in my opinion. Okay? It bothers me more than the Fergus situation. It really does, because I'll give you my reasons for that as well in a moment. I still think that is an annoying change to make, but I can understand why they make that change. All right? I can understand why they make that change, all right? In the same way that I understood the change of making Aaron Whitaker instead of it being Aaron Cloudtree and having him be an abusive Native American man, why they changed him into a more sympathetic character as a freed man who's trying to stay out of trouble, okay? Understand why they make that change. This is so fundamental to the characters of Jamie and Claire that I don't understand why a show that has, in my opinion, handled those things beautifully, did handle it beautifully back then, would undo that, okay? And a lot of people might not see it that way, okay? I understand it, but this is my channel, these are my feelings, and I am pissed and furious, and it devastates me, because I just wanted them to hold on through these last episodes, okay? I just wanted them to give our characters dignified endings and not have this bullshit be true. Like, I really wanted it to be a red herring. And I would have rolled my eyes and been annoyed if it was a red herring, but I would have been like, well, Diana Gabaldon kind of teased it a bit too, so it's fine if you kept that in there. But to make it be actually like the biggest revelation ever is just, it's retconning something vital to these characters. And I hate it. I hate it so much, okay? I told you I was going to get pissed. All right, let's back up a bit, though. Let me talk about some of the things that are the same, because I always like to do that first. Okay, there weren't many, all right? This time I used blue stickies, and how I've been doing it, almost none of my stickies got put in the book, because none of them were book accurate, okay? The book accurate things were 4 scenes this time, or 5 things. There was literally just like 5 things that were the same. Infuriating to me. Okay, the things that were the same, were mostly the stuff to do with William. Mostly, okay? So there was how he shows up and says, I know that he's alive, all that part. The scene where she says, I wanted a coward, a man who'd stay away, and he says, you thought I'd be one. Like that whole scene is directly there. Also the scene where she then tells Lord John about it, and he says, you know, it was a very lucrative decision for you, and she throws her glass, all exactly the same. Great. It was beautifully done. What was not the same is the Percy and John part of it, okay? So that scene where he says, let me see, I marked it. That scene where he says, do you remember? Oh, yeah, that's right. I wrote it down. Oh, maybe I can't find it. But the scene where Percy says, do you remember? That actually happened when they first see each other, right? Like the scene where John asks him to find Richardson is the scene where he does that. And it says in the book that John does feel some lingering sexual connection to him, but there's just too much between them. He doesn't trust this man anymore. That would not happen. So it's a mixed bag there. Like some of that's there, some of it's not. The fact that the show had John kiss him and William find out John is gay or entertained by some men in that manner is completely fabricated. And as far as I know, William has no idea that his father is gay, all right, or interested in that at all. Not that I've read, not that I've seen other people think. As of the end of this book, William does not know his father is interested in, like, the only people living who know that are some of John's conquests and Jamie and Claire and Bree because she figured it out, right? Like, William does not know about that, okay? So having this William, again, and I said it when I was recapping it, I understand why William's freaking out. He says these words that seem very unforgivable, but again, it is illegal. I don't like that it's illegal, or wish that John would have to be fearful that way. But it is. And all this shit that is coming down on William right now, I understand why he's like, well, I don't know if I can trust you. I've got all of these lies. You're a sodomite. Like, he's saying those things and they sound so awful. And John's like, don't you ever talk to your father that way again. To me, that's very like book invention because William doesn't know that. And even if he did, like, it's a very dangerous situation. So I don't quite love how they did that. And I hate how, like, I want to love William so much. And then they keep giving him the shittiest situations. You know, it's ridiculous. So other things here. Let's see. The other main things here. Okay. So one of the small differences we can talk. So, oh yeah, those are all the things that are similar. Is this other blue flag from book 8? Well, we're going to talk about what happened with that in a moment. But let's cover some of these other smaller ones here before I go on full ranting mode about it. So Bree actually doesn't discover she's pregnant until they're back on the ridge. And Claire is actually the one who discovers it, okay? So something they've kind of left out of it, I think I've mentioned that, is Bree kind of has a bit of a like heart murmur thing that's going on. They're unsure whether that happened because of how many times she's traveled through the stones or whatever. But it is something that when she's pregnant, it actually gets like better, which is interesting. But Claire discovers Brianna is pregnant when she actually is doing an exam on Bree's heart. And she can actually already hear the heartbeat. Though it is heavily implied the reason she can figure this out is because Claire's magic is kind of at its strongest point in the book when that happens, okay? Not only did she heal that child, but there's something else that she's done at that point in the book as well, which we haven't seen on the show yet, though I'm sure we will. So Claire is literally getting to that point where she is that mythical, like the white-haired lady who is more powerful and things like that. So her being able to sense that Bree is pregnant before Bree knew it is supposed to be a sign as well of where her like powers are at. And it's a really beautiful scene in the book actually, because yeah, Claire's doing an exam and she like says hello and welcome to the baby. It's really cute. Like, it was a sweet moment. So that's something that's different. Not her, you know, when was she supposed to have had sex with him? Like, that's also the thing. I mean, granted, it doesn't have to be the only sex they've had is what we see on screen, but it kind of feels that way, that they need to remind us those two are doing it. And so they had sex in the last episode and then she's pregnant now. Obviously that doesn't have to be when she got pregnant. I know that, but I make that reference because I'm pretty positive they will have Marcelly be pregnant now, because she has actually they have more children in the books. And this is kind of our last chance for her to have that if she's going to be pregnant, especially after Bree making the comment that he's alive in all of your children, and having her have these, they actually have twins in the book, after Henry Christian dies. Yep, we're getting there. And so if she were to be pregnant with, you know, especially Fergus said our future children too. So all of that's leading me to think it will be revealed maybe in the next one. Maybe Marcelly's pregnancy will be the one that Claire discovers before the mother does, you know, maybe that'll be that one and we'll switch that up. But yeah, that's a little change. Also, so Ian is the one who goes to the brothel, right? And in the books, we see Ian at the brothel. So all of the stuff that happened in the previous episode, right, with him and Rachel and all that stuff, he still needs to go to this brothel. He promised he would. And so he's able to go to it and discuss with particularly two of the women working there, about Jane, who she went, remember, by the alias Arabella when she was there. And this woman explains that they had been there about 6 or 7 years, which again means Jane came there when she was like the age of Frances, and Frances was like a baby. And it was not a biographer of an article or whatever, a reporter who got this information. He goes to the whorehouse where she was kept, where she was sold to. And that's what we learn, is that 6 or 7 years ago, there was a sea captain who sold them to Mother Abbott. And even at this young of an age, Jane was no longer a virgin. And so I'm just describing what's in this article. And so they had to use, I guess, like a pig bladder or something to, they say that they had to use like a pig bladder to have her like pretend to have lost her virginity or something. And then, so that's implied that she was, you know, already being raped by this captain, because as a 12, 13-year-old, Jane wasn't a virgin already when she was sold to this place. But Fanny was, right? And that is part of Jane's story when we see her in the show for the first time, is, you know, all the things she's done to protect her sister from being sold the way that she was. All the decisions Jane has made has been to protect Fanny. But there is no information or thought about her parents, like they were on the way, you know, and they died. Though I think at one point there's maybe a reference that the parents were killed for the girls, that like the sea captain wanted Jane. And so possible that their parents were literally knocked off so he could do what he did to her. But yes, Ian discovers this information, and in the book it basically puts to bed the fact that, you know, this was just tragic. The mother's name was Faith. There's no, you know, evidence that just because they came from France that this person was like, that this Faith was Claire and Jamie's Faith. Okay, it is basically put to bed, and when when Ian gets back, he'll tell that to Claire and it's over. All right. So that is really how that goes. Like, it's over. Now, the other big change, obviously, is what happens to Fergus. Okay, so, and apparently this rumor had been spread around, but as I've said, I really don't watch the press before the season airs because I don't want hints at it. I don't want to know what storylines are going to cover. Besides like the trailer for the show, I don't watch anything. I usually wait until the season's over so that I can go and rewatch my, favorite actors and stuff, have their interviews and everything. But apparently Lauren and Caesar had teased on a red carpet that the fire would be devastating, but not for the reasons that people thought. And so, yes. In Written in My Own Heart's Blood is actually when this fire happens. And I know I've talked about this in previous episodes that I was fine with them not killing Henry Christian. I don't think that we needed to off a disabled child in the way that it happens. It is devastating and just absolutely heartbreaking how it happens. But in the book, let us reference it. It happens in chapter 120 of Written in My Own Heart's Blood. And Jamie and Claire are back in Philadelphia, and this is before they're going to head to the Ridge. So the stuff with all the battle where Claire had been hurt, she's healing. They're in Philadelphia staying with the family and enjoying their time with the family. And in 1778 is when this happens here. Bree and Roger aren't back yet because that happens at the very end of this book. So it's them staying with them and they wake up to smoke. And it's the same sort of scenario, except Jamie and Claire are there instead of Bree and Roger. And in this case, Germain and Henry Christian were up there. And Germain tries to toss the little boy to Fergus. And so, because the two boys are stuck up there. And so Germain is dragging him to the kitchen loft, and he shouted something, and Jamie's telling the boys to jump and they'll catch them down below. But Henry Christian was panicked, struggling to go back into the loft, and the rope used to raise and lower the loads was there, almost within reach. Germain saw it and let go of Henry Christian for an instant to reach. He got it, and a gasp went through the crowd. His fair hair was standing on its end in the wind, surrounding his hair like flames, and for the instant I thought it was on fire. Henry Christian, dizzy from the smoke, had fallen against the doorframe and was clinging to it. He was too frightened to move, and I could see him shaking as Germain pulled at him. "Throw him, Germain. Throw your brother," Fergus said. "Throw him," because Henry Christian was too scared to let go and jump to his brother. And so as Germain set his jaw, he yanked Henry Christian loose, picked him up, and clutched him with one arm, wrapping the rope around the other. So Germain is holding onto the rope and his brother with the other. "No," Jamie said. "Germain, don't." But Germain bent his head over his brother, and I thought I saw his lips saying, "Hold on tight." And then he stepped out into the air, both clinging to the rope, but Henry Christian's stocky legs wrapped around him. It happened instantly, and yet so slowly. Henry Christian's short legs lost their grip, and Germain's grab failed, for the little boy was already falling, arms outstretched, in a half somersault through the air, and he fell straight through the sea of upraised hands. And I won't read the last line, because it's horrible. So, Germain was trying to drag his brother with him and hold the rope and go down. And, he's just a little boy and his arms and legs weren't strong enough. And so he loses his grip. And so, but it's just Germain and him up there. Fergus is already safe down below and they don't let him run back in, right? He's also not on the roof. He's on the kitchen loft or whatever that means. So he's not fully on the roof either. But, he isn't able to hold on and he hits his head. And so there's nothing that Claire can do for him. The way everything is different then is, so they end up, this hurts so bad. I can't even say it out loud. So Ian and Rachel are also there because everybody's planning to go back to the Ridge, right? Everybody's there. And Ian says, I know where we're going to lay him to rest. And I literally can't speak. I'm sorry. Ian leads them to where he had buried Rollo. And so Ian tells Marcelly, like, Rollo's going to watch over him. And they bury him there. And it's devastating. It's absolutely devastating. And so then Jamon ends up going back to the ridge with the elder Frasers, and Marcelly and Fergus stay with the girls at the print shop. And yeah. So that's how, like, book 8 ends, is Jamon, he blames himself. He thinks it's his fault. And Fergus and Marcelly are grieving, and they don't want him to get caught up in anything bad in the city. And so they send him with his grandparents and his, cousins and stuff to the ridge. So, all right. That's what really happens. That's who dies. And, all right. But now let me actually say, I understand why they had Fergus die, okay? So though I'm so pissed about the faith part, and we'll get back around to that, I'm not as upset about this. Like, I'm emotionally upset. Obviously, you can see that. But I understand why they didn't kill a child. Now, there's this article, everyone's passing it all around, of Diana saying they were too chicken to do it right. Maybe they just shouldn't have killed off anyone then. I haven't fully read that article yet because I wanted to film this first, but I would bet that is a sensationalized quote from it. I'm sure there's more that Diana says than that. They always want to pit her against the show. She's literally the first one listed in the credits as the consultant of the show, okay? Like, she is like, they're going to do what they're going to do, and mine are what they're going to be, right? But I was telling with my friends, like, I understand why they had it be Fergus and not, again, I say this, a disabled child, okay? With with dwarfism, who is this sweet, innocent baby. I understand why they didn't kill him in the show. And it's something I was fearing that was going to happen, right? And it is a twist, and people can say it was for the shock value twist to it. But I understand there's still them wanting there to be a death. They're still wanting there to be this, like, really emotional thing. And having it be Fergus, who we're deeply attached to and who we love so much, having him be lost, saving his sons, is a very emotional thing, right? It's very like that. But when I zoom out and I take that out of it, I understand why they didn't kill the child. That's very heavy to do, right? And it hurts in the book, but it's a little different. Like, I don't know how to explain this. It killed, like, in the book, it's so shocking and painful in the book too. Obviously you saw, like, I can't, so many, like, it just hurts. It just hurts. But it's a little more regular to lose children and young in the time of this book, right? And in the show, if they had just brought in this sweet little boy, and then they killed him off, people who, it's just different. I'm not here to say whether that was the right or wrong, but anyway, let me finish my thought about Fergus. Having it be Fergus is still the gut punch that it is. And yet Fergus doesn't really have more to the story to do, as far as I know, like, because after the death of Henry Christian, which in the show is the death of Fergus, there isn't really anything else that Fergus does in the story, right? And that doesn't mean we don't love him. Again, I'm just trying to break it down and be a little bit fair about some part of it. The weighing of what the emotional impact versus like what you're losing by having him be gone in the story, I don't think actually changes much. All right. for what is left of the story and even for what's in the book. Like, again, book 9, there's his interactions with Percy Wainwright are really the only thing he does in book 9, besides always being the one running the print shop, and there always being drama with it, right? Because as it's mentioned, well, now Germain is the heir. And so if we're still needing to do story with that part of it, we have it. And it is a deeply impactful, emotional thing to have Fergus die. So I can understand the choice because it's still emotionally devastating. It's literally Jamie's, like, in a way, his, like, firstborn, even though he wasn't born here, but, like, his first child, you know, who's been with him for, like, I don't know at this point, what is it, like 35 years or so? And to lose him like that is so devastating, but it's also, again, it is really beautiful to have had him die saving his children. Like, if I remove myself from the book part of it in this one little bit, I mean, there's no more honorable way for Fergus to die than for that, you know? I don't like it. I'm not saying I like it. You know, I don't like the deaths of anyone, but I just mean in an episode that I was so mad at, and it hurt for it to be Fergus. Like, it is a very heroic thing that he did. And man, is it going to lead to some firecracker acting from Lauren Lyle. It already has, because grief gives people a beautiful place to act from, and she's doing it. So anyway, enough on that. Obviously, that is the other big change. So, but the thing is, these are major changes that both happen, right? Even as I, on one hand, am saying, like, the trade of Henry Christian for Fergus, I can understand it. It's still a major change to have it happen. To have Jane and Fanny be confirmed to be their grandchildren, and just all of the baggage it brings. And let me come back around again to I literally cussed at my screen. I didn't say this when saying it. I cussed at my screen and said, "You've got to be fucking kidding me," when they had a scene of the actual Master Raymond and this woman, of him handing the baby off, to make it absolute canon. Like, they are saying this happened. This isn't speculation. There's no room for it to be a misunderstanding. They are saying that Faith was revived, a stillborn child who was very like a premature stillborn baby. Master Raymond was able to bring her back from the death after she'd been dead for a day. Like, that baby had been dead for a day, all right? And that is not the same as Claire reviving a baby who had just recently, like, was dying in birth, right? And it's not the same as, you know, something we'll see later of someone on, let's say, for speculation, a battlefield, who had just died and is right there, right? That's so different, because not only was he healing did he grow the baby with his magic too? Like, it just makes no sense, you guys. And I can only just keep spinning in circles. Like, the point of me filming this early and getting it out early is so we can talk about it. So I'd love to hear your theories about it. But also, for my friends who had already talked to, all of us are saying, like, what else are they doing in these next couple episodes, you know? Obviously, there'll be the battle we still have coming. But that just feels so anticlimactic now. Like, there's this threat of Jamie dying, but I don't know. I've just, so much of the wind was taken out of my sails, because I've really loved this season. And I knew they were doing something with this Jane and Fanny, but I was honestly just like closing my eyes and gritting my teeth about it. You guys know I have been, because I was like, they can't actually do this, right? They're not actually going to retcon all this, are they, right? And no, they have. And it is just infuriating. Like, it's infuriating. Yeah. Yeah. And there's also, yeah, I don't know. I'm just going to probably stop, because there'll be more to say about this, I know, in future episodes. And again, I don't want to make this so long that it takes me too long to edit it, because I want to get this out. Hopefully this will be out by Saturday evening for you guys, and we can start talking about it. So I didn't even do my normal order of operations for this. I'm not going to rate this episode because I'm too angry to rate it. And I often am rating on comparison anyway. And if I'm rating on comparison, it's a very low grade. So I know this episode is not my normal structure, but as I said at the beginning, the point of these recaps and reviews is to get a book lover's thoughts. And those are my thoughts, right? I could have felt very much more like on board with losing Fergus and that if we weren't also being confirmed that Faith lived her whole life never knowing her family and then died on the way to meet them. Like, we say that so casually and then have Jamie and Claire be like, oh, we missed her life. Like, I really just can't with it, you guys. I really just can't with it. And like, they're even, it undoes other stuff too. Like, they go back to Paris when Claire's back, and her daughter would have been like 19, 20 then. And, they go right back to those places, and she goes to see Mother Hill. So I think the point how does Mother Hildegard did she not know? Like, this is the problem with it. It makes you question everything, and it just makes it one big knot. And so, again, I haven't watched anyone's, like, their reasonings for this or how they're wanting to retcon this, but to try to tell me that this is how it was supposed to be is such an absolute slap in the face and so disrespectful to the memory of so many people that it makes me sick. And I'm going to be angry about it right now. I'll simmer down and I'll move on from it eventually. But right now, I'm pissed and I hate this. And it makes me just as angry as some of the like worst episodes of this I've ever watched. And I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate the choices that were made with this. And I don't know if I can forgive this show in the end for how it's changed this. I don't know. Like I said, I really hoped they could just hold it together, because it had been such a good season so far and I was getting so much of what I wanted, and now I'm pissed. And this type of divide is just, it might not be a safe place in the comments. I'm telling you, if you loved this episode, not from me, you're welcome to say whatever you want, but I'm just saying, if you want to say the show can do whatever they want and this or whatever, just don't. Just don't. Those of us who love the book, and even again, some who don't, because I've had those of you have told me who haven't read the book that you don't understand this either, right? And so, yeah. But anywho, what else is still coming? I have no fucking idea, okay? I know they're going to do the battle. And they've left the stuff hanging with Amaranthus and William. And they've left it hanging that Richardson is coming back to town. Like, those are the things they've left hanging. What they're going to do with it in the last 3 episodes, I don't know. Tune in next week to find out. Okay? All right. Sorry I'm so angry and sad and pissed. I feel like I've been through all the things, but that's how this episode made me feel. And, if you aren't passionate about anything, then you can't get this excited about it. So there's that. But anyway, I love you all. Thank you for sticking in with me. And, yep, the comments are open. Let's go. Again, be respectful to each other, but we can be pissed at the show. Okay? We can be pissed at the show, but be respectful to each other. All right? I love y'all. Bye-bye.